veteran night long-haul drivers have heard of or faced baffling roads, especially national and provincial highways crossing mountains with few people around. Some stretches feel cursed, normally fine, but in odd weather, at the wrong hour, or with a rattled driver. Trouble comes fast. 2 winters ago, freight driver Old, who on the Sichuan-Tibet route once met the strangest thing ever on Swallow Cliff Road. Swallow Cliff is famed for tight curves and steep grades, including a long zigzag of switchbacks that unnerves even seasoned drivers. The road wasn't tough. The trouble was rumors nobody could verify. Some claimed in fog they saw someone in old army uniform waving here. Some said they had heard static like a radio and faint call signs in the middle of the night. Even stranger, some claimed their car was moving forward, but the dashboard showed it was in reverse. Old, who had been driving this route for years and had always laughed off these rumors. He trusted the steering wheel in his hands and the brake under his foot. That day he rushed emergency supplies to Tibet, delayed, and reached the Yanzia section at midnight. The weather turned against him, and a thick fog rolled in. The fog was strange, not in patches, but in thick clumps. Even headlights couldn't cut through far ahead. Light felt sucked away, illuminating only barely a small, wet patch of road ahead and the guardrail's blurred shadow. At first, visibility was bad. Old slowed and drove carefully. Gradually, he felt something still wasn't right. The nav arrow on the screen jitters randomly. Beeps cut in and out. Then it goes black. He relied on his memory and the occasional reflective markers on the roadside to navigate. But he had been driving for over half an hour and should have long passed the most dangerous section of hairpin turns. But before him were still endless curves, and the scenery on the roadside looked monotonous in the dense fog. His heart skipped a beat as he glanced at a rusty kilometer marker on the side of the road. He clearly remembered passing an identical one about 20 minutes ago. He was paying close attention. As he passed the next bend, he specifically looked at a noticeable dented paint mark on the guardrail left by a vehicle scrape. Sure enough, after driving for another 20 minutes or so, that familiar scrape mark appeared again on the fog-shrouded guardrail. A ghost wall. These 3 words, ice cold, drilled into Old's head. He broke into cold sweat. His hands on the wheel went slick. Just as he was starting to panic, his headlights, barely piercing the fog ahead, suddenly revealed a human figure. The figure was on the side of the lane closer to the mountain wall, walking unhurriedly with its back to the truck. Medium build, wearing a bulky, dated army green padded coat and a matching old cotton cap. Looked average height overall. On this foggy mountain road at midnight, that lone walker's back looks so uncanny, all by itself. It makes your scalp prickle. Old who honked the horn. The sound was muffled and dull in the fog, but the person didn't react at all, continuing to walk at a steady pace. Old who slowed down, planning to slowly pass the person and get a clear look at their face. But strangely, no matter how slow he drove, even to the point of crawling, the figure ahead always maintained a distance of about 100 meters. His silhouette blurred in fog, yet steady. He sped up slightly. The figure stayed with him, the gap unchanged. Still, despite it was as if it wasn't a person walking, but a phantom fixed 100 meters in front of the truck, moving in sync with it. A chill ran up Old's spine. He had heard legends of ghosts leading the way, but this was the first time he had experienced it himself. Don't stop, a voice screamed in his mind. Stopping could be worse. He inhaled deeply, hardened his resolve, ignored the ghostly shadow, and trusting his judgment and memory held his course steady, driving on ahead. However, the road seemed to have no end. Same bends, same mileposts, same scratches, and 100 meters up ahead, that military coat silhouette, forever turned away. Neither hurry nor drift. Time stretched out endlessly in his fear. The temperature inside the truck also seemed to be dropping. Old who turned on the heat, but he couldn't feel much warmth. Finally, a mixture of exhaustion, fear, and inexplicable agitation overwhelmed his sanity. He stared at the figure ahead, a surge of defiant anger rising within him. Damn it. I'm gonna see what the hell you are. He no longer controlled his speed, instead slamming his foot on the gas pedal. The old truck's engine roared as the vehicle shot forward. In seconds, the 100 meters vanished. Headlights flared, instantly swallowing the greatcoat-clad figure's silhouette. There was no sensation of impact, no scream, not even the feeling of any physical resistance. The truck passed straight through the spot where the figure stood, as if driving through a patch of cold, slightly denser fog. Still shaken, Old Who instinctively slammed on the brakes. The tires let out a piercing screech on the wet road. Before the car fully stopped, he couldn't wait, quickly turning to check the rearview mirror. In the mirror, fog hung thick. About 100 meters behind the car, a back in a worn army coat kept walking on, unhurried, step by step. Its posture was exactly the same as before, as if that terrifying drive-through had never happened. A chill ran through Old Who's entire body. Not a hallucination or natural phenomenon. He clearly slammed into something real, right ahead there. Despair was closing in when he remembered a tip from years back. A veteran Tibet route driver, drunk, warned him that if a ghost blocks the mountain road, don't charge ahead. Never panic on the spot. Pull over where you won't block traffic. Light a cigarette and stick it in dirt or a rock crack. Honestly, the road's hard. Have a smoke, catch your breath. Just saying hi, asking passage through, friend. Will it work? Depends on fate. Might as well treat a dead horse like it's alive anyway. Old Who, trembling, pulled a cigarette, then lit it with the car's built-in lighter. He turned on his hazard lights, carefully pulled the truck over to the far right, and stopped on a relatively flat patch of the shoulder. He opened the car door. Mountain cold and fog instantly wrapped him. He crouched down and gently stuck the lit cigarette beside a slightly raised stone on the roadside. The smoke curled up into the stagnant fog, a faint, warm speck of light. Facing the thick fog and the cigarette, he spoke in a low voice, which was hoarse from nervousness. Friend, you must be tired from your journey. Take a break. Have a smoke. I'm just a driver trying to pass through. Please let me by. Done talking, he fled to the car, slammed the door, heart hammering hard inside. Seconds passed. At first, nothing seemed to change. Just as Old Who was wondering how absurd this method was, he suddenly noticed that the thick, impenetrable fog in front of his truck seemed to have thinned a bit. It wasn't dissipating, but rather parting as if gently pushed by an invisible hand, flowing slowly to both sides and revealing a longer stretch of road ahead. He tried to start the truck slowly and drive forward. This time, the road was noticeably different. The curves were no longer hopelessly repetitive, and the roadside scenery started to change. In under 5 minutes, the fog ahead thinned fast. Haze lingered afar, but visibility was clear enough still. Just as his tense nerves were about to relax, his gaze swept over the road ahead, and a chill shot up from the soles of his feet to the top of his head, making him slam on the brakes. The car screeched sharply, then stopped dead there. In the glare of the headlights, less than half a meter ahead, the solid concrete guardrail had vanished. In its place was a pitch-black gap, shrouded in mist. Beyond the gap was a bottomless cliff, from which the faint sound of wind echoed. If he hadn't slowed down cautiously when the fog began to clear, or if the fog had cleared just a few seconds later, given his state of mind and speed when he tried to run down the phantom, he and his truck would have already plunged into the bottomless abyss. Who collapsed in the driver's seat, cold sweat soaking his shirt. Limbs went icy, and he couldn't move. After a long time, he trembling, got out again and returned to where he'd stuck cigarette. The cigarette had burned down, leaving only a damp butt toppled over in the rock crevice. And next to the cigarette butt, lying silently on the moss-covered surface of the stone, was a small metal object with worn and deformed edges. He squatted down and picked the thing up. It was ice cold and heavy in his hand. Wiped off moisture. It was a 5-point star cab badge. Most red lacquer had nearly flaked away, exposing dull yellow copper beneath. The edges were still badly rusted. In the headlights, he could read a blurred number and factory stamp on the back. It clearly wasn't recent, more like a 1950s or 60s model, or even much older still. Old suddenly remembered that a long time ago, he seemed to have heard a local elder mention something. In the late 1950s, a geology mapping team near Yanzi hit extreme weather, vanished entirely. Days of searching found only some scattered gear, no sign of them, dead or alive. It was said that they were wearing similar old-style military overcoats at the time. He gripped the cold, rusted cap badge, standing in the fading nightfall, gazing at the cliff gap ahead that almost swallowed him, wordless. The mountain wind whistled through the pass, making a whimpering sound, as if mixed with sighs and guidance from a distant time and space. Later, whenever Old went through Yanzia, he chose daylight, and if weather turned even slightly bad, he never pressed on. He wrapped the rusty 5-pointed star cap badge in a red cloth and placed it in his car. He would occasionally mention that night's experience to fellow drivers he truly trusted. In the end, he'd fall silent briefly, then speak again in a low voice. Some roads, some people, may never have been walked out of. What we can do is hold some reverence in our hearts and keep a firm grip on the steering wheel. Driving at night, watch the road with your eyes and keep a light in your heart.